let the Jacksonville Health Department know about it. The can was cut open there, and 10 health department workers witnessed what you're about to see. James Harvey's worst fears had been confirmed.
You see that size of that ear? Mm-hmm. That's got to be a young rat.
The waves were so high, up to 60 feet. You can see them from 10,000 feet above. They were headed toward Cancun as we headed toward the core of Hurricane Gilbert. It's man against the elements, but this is one of the most powerful elements Mother Nature has created. These guys are walking around and they're getting a lot done. As you can see, it's really gotten rough here coming through this part of the eye wall.
This is the picture conjured up in the minds of many Americans when the subject of drug abuse is mentioned. Police on the poor side of town manhandling seedy-looking suspects, confiscating pot, powder, and pills. But drugs are also a way of life in good neighborhoods, in your neighborhood. They're in homes with plush lawns in Mandarin, Bay Meadows, and San Marco. And the facts may surprise you. The average first-time drug user is 11 and a half years old. 5,000 Americans will try cocaine today for the first time. But what's been getting the most attention lately is the problem of drugs in the workplace. Again, it's not just at the construction sites, factories, and warehouses. It's a problem among executives in high-rise downtown office buildings. Surveys show 23% of all workers are substance abusers. 75% of those people report using drugs on the job. The problem costs businesses $60 billion a year nationally, $800 million a year here in Florida in lost profits, health costs, and lowered productivity.
I am firmly convinced that if we don't address the drug problem, our moral society is going to end as we know it.
Take us on! You take one, take us on!
At one point today, outnumbered policemen were surrounded by a mob as they tried to arrest a dock worker who had thrown a bottle at a truck. A few police swelled to more than 24, and while longshoremen finally cleared the roadway, they continued to jeer at trucks who crossed the picket line.
These crowds started forming on the sidelines as soon as the sun came up. This is the weekend for the Scout World Balloon Race, and although the weatherman predicted rain, Mother Nature must be a balloon lover. Clear skies and lots of sunshine set the stage this morning. 70 hot air balloons from all over the country made the trek to the First Coast for this one, for all kinds of different reasons.
And I've kind of just only fly to whatever suits me.
Others showed up to do a little advertising. Even Don Quixote made an appearance to add a little Picasso influence. But at about 6:30 this morning, the hair balloon took off, and just a few minutes later, this is what followed. Suspended in the air, they all become just big, beautiful, floating circles, graceful rainbows in the sky. And if you missed it this morning, they'll be up, and away again. Same time, sunrise on Sunday.
24 hours, night and day. And seeing you almost died.
Lonnie Terrell is fighting for his life. It began last February when this man, Lewis Williams, shot Terrell 4 times in a jealous fight over his then-fiancée. But it was the shots to his stomach that ruined his life. He spent 2 months in St. Vincent's Hospital, where his stomach and much of his intestines had to be removed. He returned to St. Augustine with a hospital bill approaching $200,000.
But several weeks ago, Lonnie's condition got worse, and he had to be admitted here at Flagler Hospital in St. Augustine. He has no money, he has no insurance, and so Flagler has been paying all of his bills and literally keeping him alive.
He can never again eat solid food, and so he is fed a liquid diet through this tube at a cost of $10,000 a month, every month, for the rest of his life. But now he's got a bigger problem: how to pay for it all. His social worker is now faced with trying to find the money he needs to survive.
The bottom line is we can't find a source of funding, a public source of funding for this TPN, the nutritional supply that he needs to stay alive.
She's written the governor, HRS, and even contacted the local congressman. They all say the same thing. His condition isn't covered by Medicare or Medicaid because it's simply too expensive.
One of the workers, 35-year-old Bruce Boyles, was clinging to a rope dangling from the bucket. Another worker, Robert Frawley, had already fallen into the water 140 feet below. He dislocated his shoulder, but miraculously, he managed to swim to shore. Two other workers, a man and a woman, clutched onto the bucket while lying on their backs. It was like being trapped high atop a Ferris wheel, but this was a lot scarier than any carnival ride. They hung there for an hour and a half. As rescuers stared up from the water below, one by one they were pulled to safety. The first one rescued, Boyles, had this to say.
You glad to be back? St. Augustine has some of the biggest, oldest, and most beautiful trees in all of Northeast Florida. Many of these old cypress and live oaks have been around here for centuries. That's why the folks who live along this street are so upset. The county's going to pave their dirt road. The trade-off is 19 of these trees will have to come down.
Now, this is the next street over. It's also a dirt road, and the county's also going to come in and pave it. But as you can see, they've already come in and taken down many of the trees here. And the folks that live just one street over say this is exactly what they don't want on their street.
At one point, this blaze in northern St. Johns County was 3 miles wide. It came dangerously close to dozens of homes in the Ponte Vedra and Palm Valley areas. Scores of firemen from Jacksonville, St. John's, and half a dozen volunteer departments fought the blaze, but fanned by 25 to 35 mile-per-hour winds, it raced southward.
It is hard to believe just how bad yesterday's flooding really was. For many store owners today, it was hard to believe just how much damage the high water caused.
Every time a car would come by, the water was so bad that it was like a tide, just kind of rushing in through the glass, just making everything deeper and deeper in here.
In neighborhoods, dozens of homes were literally underwater, floors soaked, personal belongings ruined.
We voted taxes to have better sewage. Why don't they do anything with it instead of that cotton-picking train that goes nowhere and takes nobody nowhere?
The Coke machine in his barbershop clearly show the results of 15 inches of water that swept through here. Many in this neighborhood point to drainage ditches like this one that do anything but drain water during a storm.
Oh, isn't he cute? And look at her. What an angel. Gosh, if they could just be like this all the time. Instead, you get hours and hours of this.
Stop crying.
Remember, this was just a dramatization. But before you go, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that didn't happen in real life, I've got to tell you, it does happen in real life all too often. You know how stress is. Sometimes you just can't take it anymore. Now, I hate to show you this, but take a look at this picture. You are seeing a baby girl's hand with 2nd and 3rd degree burns. According to the state attorney, her hand was dipped in hot water, 140 degrees. And who did that? Officials tell me it was her stepdad, a carpenter here in Jacksonville, unemployed and probably extremely stressed out. But say you have older children. You love them, but they can drive you crazy. I'm going to show you another dramatization now, and see if you can relate to this. It all starts with one absolutely awful day at work.
Damn! Come on, man! Move it! What is this? I sit there, I've had a hard day today, and I come home, and what do you got food up here for?
If you have ever hit your child, you probably feel guilty. Plus, what did you accomplish?
Hitting a child stops them from doing what they're doing immediately. 3 seconds later, they could go back and do the same thing.
So watch this scene again for a new approach.
Look at this room. A
I'll be right back.
Sometimes daddies lose control and they have to go beat on their pillows. That's fine. That's great.
Tamla, you know why Daddy was upset, don't you?
The final message has to be, I don't like what you did. It made me angry. It got me upset. I don't want it to happen again, but I still love you and you're my child and I care about you.
Give Daddy a hug.
Teach your children well.